remember, right from here on out through the rest of the class, I need you to put your phones away and no side conversations. Please be respectful of the speaker and each other, so we're not interrupting each other. We have a really great speaker today. Her name is Amber Wakem. She is a former foster kid. She'll be announced. She's here. She's right there. I'm introducing her right now. Her name's Amber Wakem. She's a local Austinite. She's a former foster kid. She started an amazing company, nonprofit called Startup Kids Club, and is also the creator of the Pitch Yeah competition, which is a pitch competition for young entrepreneurs 18 and under who are starting their own company. She is going to talk to you today about her story and about entrepreneurship. And so without further ado, please welcome Amber Wakem.
Very glad to be here. I got to speak to the very first group of High Five Kids last year and was very honored to come back and get to be part of it again this year. So what I'd like to do, because I'm going to be talking a lot about me, I'd love to start by just getting to learn maybe a little bit about you. So if you can go around and then you can share your name, maybe how old you are, and something you enjoy. Let's start over here with you. And you what? Like reading, okay. Okay. All right.
My name is Luke, and I work at TSS, and I'm starting my own wholesale electronics business.
Okay. All right. Well, it's so nice to meet all of you guys. I ask you guys what you enjoy because, as I always tell my kid, there's a method to my madness, and I will bring that around full circle here in just a little bit. So, like Martin said, my name is Amber, and I'm the founder of an organization here in town called Startup Kids Club. I'm also a mother of a 10-year-old daughter. I consider myself an educator disruptor, and you'll learn a little bit more about that later. I'm extremely ADD, which I believe is a superpower of mine. And as Martin said, I was previously in foster care myself and consider myself a survivor. So I want to share a little bit about me and myself before I jump into what Startup Kids was, because I really feel that that's helped make me who I am today, and a lot of the decisions that govern my life and the way I approach my business and my friends and all of the choices I make go back to who I am and how I learned through experience. So I was born here in Austin. I'm one of the few people I hear that are left that were actually born here, raised here, and stayed. I have an older brother who is 2 years older than me and a younger half-sister who's 2 years younger than me. About 2 weeks after I was born, my mom married my stepdad. My brother and I, we have the same birth parents, so both the same mom and dad, but they just never hit it off. They never had a connection and never got married. So right after I was born, literally 2 weeks later, my mom married my stepdad, and we had this unconventional family. So as I grew up, for the time that I was actually in that household, not only was I the middle child, but I was kind of different because my younger sister, she shared both my mom and my dad. She was their child together. And my brother, he was the only boy. He played sports. He did all of these really cool, amazing things that boys do. And I was this smart girl who loved to create and had an imagination and just never fit the mold of the family. And so I was treated differently from as long as I can remember, no matter what I did. So in about third grade, because I was just, my mom would tell me all the time, she wished she never had me. I was the biggest mistake she'd ever made. And that breaks her heart. Really, really hurts. But my brother and my sister never heard that. So in third grade, I decided to run away. At night when my family went to sleep, I snuck into the living room and I got in my mom's purse and she had $20. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. This is gonna help me take off and start a new life at 8 years old. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? So I took off, I climbed out of my window, and I got about 5 miles down the road. And as I was going, we were in the middle of the country. So, I mean, I was maybe 20 miles away from the city. So every car that passed, I would freak out. I'm like, oh my gosh, they know I'm gone. They're coming, they're gonna find me. And I would hide and get up. So it took me forever. And at one point I fell and I hurt myself really badly. And I realized I wasn't gonna be able to do this. I wasn't gonna be able to get away, that I had to go back home. So I hitchhiked back home. And thankfully and luckily for me, the gentleman who picked me up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. Was a kind, kind soul who drove me in, walked me to the door of my house and said, hey, you've got this 8-year-old that was on the side of the road. Watch out for her. And so for me, that actually made my life a lot worse. And to the point that any abuse that I had experienced only increased. And ultimately, my mom finally ended up looking at me and said, I don't want you anymore. I need you just to go. And so she kept my brother, she kept my sister, and I went into foster care. I was about 12 years old, and I remained there until I was 16. And so, as I'm sure you all know, it can be hard. It's different. I had such a crazy life of instability and neglect and abuse and not feeling love that being in an environment where people actually appreciated me was really hard to understand. And so sometimes I didn't make the best decisions. I kind of shut down because I was a kid. I didn't know what else to do. It was a way I was protecting me. So finally, my foster family realized some of these tendencies, and they were like, we want to give you a forever home. We want to make you ours. We want to bring you into our family. So they started the process when I was 15. The day I turned 16, the court ruled I had to go back home, and they made me move back in with my mom. Hardest, saddest thing that's ever happened. And I'm sure some of you guys being older can relate to what that would feel like, to have to go into an environment that you knew is not good for you, and you were working so hard to make something of yourself. So I got back there at 16 and was starting my junior year in high school. So I was miserable. I didn't know what else to do. I decided I was going to drop out. I was so sick of everything. I was going to be my own boss. I was going to take care of me. I was going to be what I needed. And so I stopped going to school. And I met this person who said, Amber, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. I understand where you're coming from, but there's this school you can go to. It's self-paced. You can take a job, you can work half day, you can go to school half day, but really the best thing you can do is at least get your degree. And so I went to this school and ended up finishing a year and a half early from high school. So I could start my life. I went to college and started trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And that segues me into thinking that throughout my life, no one ever sat down and told me all of the possibilities or the things that I could do. We always teach our kids that when you grow up, you can be anything. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you could even try to be the president if you want to. But those are pretty generic roles, aren't there? Like, just because I like to help people doesn't mean I need to be a doctor. There's a ton of other things I could do in that field. But no one ever gave me any of the options other than those typical career. And so I ended up studying to be a teacher because teachers played such a huge role in my life of kind of having instability around me that I thought that being a teacher would be a good way to be able to give back and to make impact on other kids. Plus, I mean, at my core, I'm pretty darn motherly, so it was a good role for me. I worked as a teacher for about 10 years. In that time, I had my own little girl. She was super smart and brilliant and everything I wanted her to be. And I told myself, you are going to have the best mom in the world who loves you more than you'll ever know. And she did. So when she started kindergarten, or I'd like to think she did, when she started kindergarten, everybody looked at her and they're like, this is the best kid ever. She's so smart and capable. I want her in my class so she can be the leader for all of these kids and show them because she's so good. So she got a good teacher, and all of a sudden, she started shutting down. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? You've got people who love you and they care about you, and you're in this environment. You're so smart. Why are you shutting down? Like, what's happening? And we couldn't figure it out. She would cry. She felt like she was no good. She started showing depression and anxiety. And for me, it made me think of myself as a little girl and what maybe she was missing. But we soon found out that she actually had a learning disability called dyslexia. Any of you guys ever heard of that before? So dyslexia is just a way, it's a learning disability that means that you really struggle reading. And so for her, she was a perfectionist. She was so used to being good at everything that when she realized she couldn't read, that she internalized that and she felt bad and she didn't want to make attempts to try to do anything because she didn't think she was going to be successful. And I tried everything I could to help her feel that she could be. And so for me, kind of this is where everything transitions from my life as a teacher to my life of being able to see possibility. And it was all because of my child. And I say, my life changed because of a flipping coffee. Because Harper, and when she was 8 years old, the same age I ran away from home, she came to me and said, Mom, I want to start a business. I was like, you're crazy, you're 8. But okay, what do you want to do? And she goes, well, I want to sell lemonade. I was like, you've done that before, and you didn't like selling lemonade. You've made, This is right here, yeah. I said, you sold lemonade, you didn't like it, you made a mess, I had to clean it up, and you ended up like leaving halfway through, and all these customers would come and be unserved. And she said, I want to do something. And so we started talking to her, and finally she comes and she goes, we're having a garage sale, right? It's in the morning. You know what? I want to sell coffee. Mom, you can't get out of bed without coffee. So other people must be like you. I think I want to sell coffee. I was like, that's smart. That's really smart. Adults like coffee. That could be a really good business to start. So we asked her, what do you like in coffee? You know what she said? Whipped cream and sprinkles. She swore that adults liked whipped cream and sprinkles in their coffee. And I was like, no, I don't think that's right. I think that that's going to cost a lot of money and you're going to figure out that that's not what people like. And she goes, well, what do they like? Well, we all know, cream and sugar. But I said, I don't know, where would you find that out? And she goes, let's go to Starbucks. So we took this trip to Starbucks and she started polling the barista and asking them questions like, all right, what do people like in their coffee? And she learned all about cream and sugar and dietary allergies and health restrictions and how, you can have 10 different types of sugars and creams. And so we got back in the car and she looks at me and she goes, Mom, I need a logo. I need an employee so that when I go get more water, I have somebody that greets my customers. I need a menu. I need to serve. I need my logo on everything. She built this entire business plan from a trip to Starbucks. And it got me thinking, like, wait a minute, here you are, this little girl that sits in your classroom and you don't feel like you're able to do anything, but here you are wanting to start a business and you're actually doing really well at it. So this is the picture that I took from the day that she launched her business. She named it Flippin' Coffee. She did gymnastics and she identified herself as being flippin' cool. So they said, come get the best flippin' coffee in town. It's so, so good. And that was where she started. That day they made over $100 in profit. So I think they brought in about $227 total. That paid for their t-shirts or their uniforms they made, all of their coffee supplies, any of their packaging, their stickers. They made it standing on my street corner. And it made me stop and think, oh my gosh, look at you. Look how successful you're being. You're doing all of the things that we're doing in life. You're smiling and you're happy. Why don't we teach kids this? Why aren't we giving them the opportunities to learn? I'm a teacher, and while I love what I do, I'm miserable. I hate how we're so boxed into supporting these kids. Why can't we do more? And it got me thinking that there should be something like that out there. So I quit my job and pulled my retirement and started Startup Kids Club. as a nonprofit. And so I'm not sure how far you guys have gotten in your lesson, but nonprofits basically mean that they're around to serve the community, that they're there for purposes greater than just to make money. And for me, coming from a background of neglect and abuse and doing without, I decided that our program would be free. I wanted to make sure that no matter who it was, where they were, that they had an opportunity to be heard because their voice mattered. And I saw in my daughter that she had the ability to use it as a way to boost her confidence, her self-esteem, to learn skills, but to be around other people, to help her realize that she was good at something and that she mattered. And so for us, our mission at Startup is to make sure that every child is afforded the opportunity to succeed in life, no matter what. And we do that through entrepreneurship. So from there, I know you guys are working on ideation. And I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about ideation. Do you guys know what that is? Ideation is just a fancy word for coming up with ideas. It's the process of coming up with ideas. And as y'all start to generate your ideas and figure out what it is that y'all want to do, I would urge you to start with what it is that you enjoy. What do you like? What are you good at? What are the things that matter to you? Because as you start to really get into business and doing something, it takes a lot of time and effort and commitment. You can probably ask Martin, and he can tell you he works more than a 40-hour work week. I probably work about 80 to 90 hours on average a week running our organization. And that might be me even being generous. You do it all. You're the web designer, you're the speaker, the marketer, the sales guy, the instructor. You do all of the roles. So if you don't love what you do, it can get really taxing and tedious sometimes. So as you're starting to generate your ideas and think about those things, I'd urge you to start with what you love and what you're good at, which is kind of why I brought that up to you earlier, to say, what do you enjoy? Like, how could you use, I heard somebody say art. How could you use your love of painting to create a business? How could you use art? Since you enjoy creating things, how could you use that as a way to create a business? You could teach them. You could sell your art. You could sell different types of mediums of art. You could, exactly, there's so many different realms of that. So as I was saying earlier, like just because you do one, like you enjoy one thing doesn't mean you have to be boxed in. Say I love animals. I really love dogs. Should I be told I should just be a veterinarian? No, I could make dog food. I could do dog walking. I could do dog grooming. I could make dog treats. I could design dog collars. I could create an organization that raises dogs. I could have a nonprofit that rescues them. I could, it's endless. The possibilities are endless in the things that you can do with what you love. So that's kind of the part of using ideation as a realm to open up your mind to think about those things. So a great idea lies between a problem and a solution. Has anybody heard that before? Think about, who's heard of Yeti coolers before? Okay, so what problem do you think that Yeti coolers solve? What's that? Okay. What problem does Yeti cooler solve? Yeah, so the founders of Yeti were big fishermen. They like to go out and fish like crazy. And so when you're on a fish or a big boat and you're catching fish, sometimes you're out there for 24 hours just trying to catch as many fish as you can. You have to take a cooler if you catch fish to keep them cold. And what they were discovering was that no matter how hard they tried, their ice would always melt and their fish could go bad. And so that was a problem that they weren't able to have a cooler that stayed cool long enough to fill the void that they needed to get their fish back. So they decided, well, we should make something. So the problem was coolers weren't working. The solution was creating a cooler that would keep things cold as long as possible. So their idea was Yeti coolers, which I think is what, like 3 days is how long it keeps your ice actually physically in your cooler. That is a long time. So they saw a problem that was unique to them, and they offered a solution which then they made an idea off of. So everything around you basically follows that same scheme about a problem and a solution. For me, the problem I saw was that I didn't feel that kids were getting the opportunity to learn skills that they needed for life in the classroom. We were so busy teaching how to take tests that they weren't able to learn how to communicate, or they weren't able to learn how to develop ideas or do things that they were really good at. So my idea was to start Startup as a way to build this platform. So I would encourage you, as you start looking for that, to think about how your idea can solve a problem. I want to do a little activity with you guys really quick, because I feel like it's super helpful when you're thinking about ideas. A lot of times, there are things that already exist out there, and you might find yourself thinking like, think about the straw, for instance. The straw was great for so long, but what have we recently learned about the straw? Anybody? Yeah, it's plastic. It's bad for the environment. So it's not going away. Fish are eating it, and it's causing issues. So they have looked for ways to innovate the straws by making paper straws, by making bamboo straws, by making them out of hay. So finding alternatives that are better for the environment. So with that, you could be looking at things around you, and one of your ideas might be to make something better. And so I like to use glitter as an example when we think about innovation. So everybody knows what glitter is, right? Okay. No? No, we don't know what glitter is? Okay. Glitter. All right. So what are some good things about glitter? Positive things. What was that? It's sparkly, okay? So attention. It brings attention to things. What else? I said good things. Good things about glitter. Okay, it's fun. I'm going to say versatile because you can use it for a lot of things. What other are some good things about glitter? It is fun. Anything else we can think about? Okay, well, I hear that we have lots of not so good things about glitter. So let me hear a couple of those. We said, gets everywhere. It's sticky. Okay, so we're gonna say bright, loud. So hard to clean. What are some other not so good things about glitter? Okay, so it can hurt people? That's true story. Distracting. It's plastic. They actually released an article about 18 months ago about how they were wanting to outlaw and ban glitter. They were, there was this whole thing about how they wanted to actually outlaw glitter because they were finding when they were fishing, actually, that all of these fish had glitter in their stomach. And it's not good for the environment. It's either made out of plastic or it's made out of little tiny shards of metal. So it's not good. So it's bad for the environment. Any other things that we feel are not so good about glitter? Well, we got a pretty good list here. Yeah, so it's hard to clean. how do you think we can make glitter better? Because if you're looking, we know that
Us too. That's why we created You Rock One Shot, a set of bilingual cards with kid-approved questions. Hi, my name is Lila Osler. And I'm Ariel Pepper. And we're here to make the lunchroom a kinder place. The reality of lunch for kids today is there's only 2 adults and 100 kids. That lack of adult supervision leads to 2 common problems. Bullying and exclusion. Kids are meanest when adults can't hear what they're saying, and there's a growing number of kids that don't speak the same first language in the U.S. Our solution is You Rock Lunch Talks. 50 valuable cards with kid-approved questions to ask each other at lunchtime. Not just any questions, but fresh and fun questions, right, Bob? Absolutely. Hey Ariel, what's your favorite emoji? The group one, definitely. Isn't it everyone? If you were given $50 to buy something nice for your teacher, what would you buy? Oh, I got it. A calculator from the Snap Committee, because she keeps counting my math answers wrong. But wait, there's more. More? Yes, our cards also include our favorite tips on having the answer in one time and playing together with the class. We think everyone will buy our product. Parents, grandparents, teachers, schools, and even students. There's approximately 100,000 elementary schools in the U.S. Wow, that is a lot of lunch tables that we do rock lunch talk. Scientists offer these reasons why our product is needed now more than ever. You may be wondering what makes us different. We gather questions from everyone that would talk to us. Parents, grandparents, teachers, and we even talk to boys.
so I'll stop right there. They're all on YouTube.
Y'all got a little taste of what that presentation that they just did, or you saw part of. That's what you guys are going to do in front of everybody here at the end on the last day of class. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be really fun. So, yes, you absolutely can. You guys, if you guys have an idea that y'all want to work on together, you can absolutely come up with your business together and be business partners. We're gonna talk about partnerships and stuff like that at a future class. So right now, let's take a 5-minute break to use the restroom or whatever. If you haven't gotten your free drink and you want one, you